adding to the knowledge of the world sounds very grandiose, but I think that's really what I get out of doing research, is actually pushing the boundary of what humans know. And that's really cool.
At the University of Copenhagen's Department of Biology, researchers supported by the EU made a landmark discovery that may help treat Parkinson's and similar diseases.
We work primarily in biochemistry. In particular, we work on proteins that are called intrinsically disordered proteins, which generally have no structure. Intrinsically disordered proteins have been very difficult for people to target with drugs in the past. But because we have made this discovery, the interacting mechanism that we defined means that if you were able to drug in this way, the body would not be able to break down that drug in sort of the same normal process.
This discovery holds exciting possibilities for the future of science. It could pave the way for new treatments for neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and ALS.
So we started focusing on Parkinson's disease, but what actually happened with the project is that we discovered, in fact, that the two proteins that we were investigating were actually not interacting in the way that we had thought. And it really challenges a lot of what we knew about protein interactions. And we were able to write this really beautiful paper, I think, that showed this interaction between these proteins that no one really thought could interact before. So it was quite special once we actually started to put it all together.
The Marie Skłodowsky-Curie Actions Fellowship enabled Estella to take the research position in Professor Crowland's lab in Denmark.
The Marie Curie Fellowship was really integral to getting this off the ground.
Det vi beskæftiger os med i min forskningsgruppe er generering af ny viden, der har langvarig levetid. Det betyder, at den viden, vi får nu, ikke nødvendigvis umiddelbart står på tærsklen til at lave ny medicin. Så det var ikke oplagt at begynde at tænke på det her. Men da vi først havde fået ideen, så var det egentlig temmelig oplagt, fordi der havde vi bevæget os udenfor. Så jeg tror lige så snart, at vi har nu lavet det her studie, vil andre følge efter.
It never really exactly feels like you're making groundbreaking research while you're doing the experiments, because you're just putting little pieces together. Then when we were writing the paper especially, I started to think okay, this is really interesting, especially working with these different proteins and identifying their structures. The entire process is basically like unfolding a puzzle, from the data analysis all the way to presenting it in a way that people understand. It's all putting everything together, all the different pieces, and I think that's what I've always loved about science. I will never deviate too far from the scientist thing. I like puzzles, I like finding out new information much too much.
The EU stands for science. Do you? And the journey continues. We visit Cyprus, where EU-supported researchers are transforming space data into practical tools for Earth observation, climate and air quality monitoring, and community disaster preparedness.